live event. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Mr. Lincoln M. Alexander's 100th birthday celebration. Please note that this event will be recorded by our board and the recording will be published in some way. This is a Microsoft Live event, and as such, your audience will not be able to unmute or turn on their cameras. If you have a question, please put it into the chat box, which you can find on the upper right-hand corner of your screen. We will address questions at a later time. So next slide, please. Thank you. So our program for this morning is as follows. We will start off with our assembly with our national anthem. Next slide, please. Thank you so much. Okay, so as we move on, and now I would like to call upon our SAC, or Student Activity Council, co-president Amelia Buchan, to do a land acknowledgement for us. Amelia?
We would like to begin by acknowledging the land on which we gather, and which the region of Peel operates as part of Treaty 13A and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credits. For thousands of years, Indigenous people inhabited and cared for this land, and continue to do so today. This meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island. We are grateful to have this opportunity to work on this land, and as a community, have our duty to continue to honor and respect the four directions: land, water, plants, animals, and ancestors. As an immigrant on these unceded territories, I stand here today with honor to be able to work on this land, as well as the responsibility to acknowledge that I am grateful for all the opportunities provided to me as a result of this land. As a youth, I'll continue to do my part to honor the history and strength of this land and the people that reside on it.
Thank you so much, Amelia. Thank you so much for that land acknowledgement. So today we're here to celebrate Mr. Lincoln M. Alexander, our school's namesake. This iconic and inspirational man, who was a Canadian lawyer, broke new ground as Canada's first Black member of Parliament, first Black federal cabinet minister serving as Federal Minister of Labor, and Ontario's first Black lieutenant governor. He was the first person to serve 5 terms as Chancellor of the University of Guelph. He overcame many obstacles in his life and excelled at serving the people of Canada. He was a leading figure in the fight for racial equity in Canada. In provincial, federal, and public and private roles, he always advocated for the equal treatment of Black Canadians. He is truly a person our young people at Lincoln M. Alexander Secondary School can look up to as a hero in our Canadian society. Now, I would just like to ask if we can show that short video to celebrate his legacy, please.
So let's say you have to read an incredibly long email from your boss that you have to finish before the big
How lucky I am. I've been very fortunate. I'm a lucky dude.
This lucky dude is the Honorable Lincoln Alexander and is one of Canada's most prominent Black men in history, becoming Canada's first Black member of Parliament, the first Black chair of the Workers' Compensation Board, the first visible minority to hold the post of Lieutenant Governor, and the first person to serve 5 terms as the University of Guelph's Chancellor.
Well, I guess one of the biggest successes is becoming the Lieutenant Governor. That's big. And of course, I'm very fortunate to have met the Queen Percy 2 or 3 times and other dignitaries. Wow. President Bush, I met President Bush. Mulroney, my friend, even though some people don't like him, he appointed me as Lieutenant Governor.
Well before being appointed the 24th Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, he served with the Royal Canadian Air Force during the Second World War.
I chose the Air Force because the Navy didn't want you. And if you join the Army, you're bound to get shot. So I was smart enough to say, well, I'll take the Air Force. And I became a sergeant in the Air Force, never went overseas, but I was ready to defend my country.
Born on January 21st, 1922 in Toronto, Ontario, to West Indian working-class immigrants, Lincoln has remained a very proud Canadian.
Mind you, this is the greatest country in the world, bar none. People by the thousands come here every year, seeking justice, work, tolerance. And they get all of that, but it's not perfect. There's still some people who still look at people of color with some disdain and dislike and want to call them names and won't give them jobs, you know. But I think that we're very fortunate to be in Canada, the greatest country in the world, but it's not perfect. But show me a better country when it comes to race relations.
Although he believes that Canada is on the leading edge in regards to race relations, he still feels very strongly about the importance of Black History Month. And he also believes that every Canadian can do more.
I think you should practice Black History Month every day. But it's a start anyway, because it gives some indication of how Black people were treated in the old days. They couldn't get jobs. They couldn't go to school. They were isolated. And that's to remind them that from those days to today, it's changed different. Big changes have been made. I became a Lieutenant Governor, Member of Parliament, lawyer, and all that sort of thing. So it just gives us a moment to look back and see the wrongs that were done to people of color and how much it has changed. It's changed considerably, all for the better, but it's still not finished. Canada sets aside everyone. What's really important is to remind people that people can, in both of our countries, we can reach out and become a Obama. I'm the Obama of Canada.
Among being the self-proclaimed Obama of Canada, Lincoln has been honored to have a school named after him, along with a center, a hall at the Hamilton Club, a parkway, and the list goes on.
I'm very touched. I've been very lucky over my life, but I believe in God. I'm in God's hands, and whatever happens to me comes as a result of my belief. and I'm very happy.
Over his blessed life, Alexander was the first person in his family to attend university, and he graduated as a lawyer from Osgoode Hall Law School in Toronto and was called to the bar in 1953, just after marrying Yvonne in 1948.
So I feel quite proud of him. I married a beautiful girl. My wife passed, Yvonne. She died she lived for 50 years. And then I found Marnie Beale. Without her, life would be very drab and very terrible. So I'm a lucky dude. Oh, I have a beautiful family. Now I have my daughter-in-law Joyce, my son Keith, and I have Erica and Marissa. They're about 26, something like that. And I'm very proud of them. And they give me their love every time. They pick me up the phone, say, how are you doing there? Oh, they call me Baba. And I love that. With Marnie and them, I'm living a good life. I have God's blessing. I'm blessed by God.
He recently celebrated 90 years of blessings at the place that he now calls home.
So I'm happy. I live in Caroline Place, which is a splendid organization. The staff is good, and the food is perfect. And I got a great big suite here, and the rent's good.
If you could pass on a lesson, what lesson would you want to pass on to young people today?
Stay in school, because school is the key to success. And that's what my mother told me. You're a little black boy, go to school. And I did. I'm still in school. I learn every day.
Chancellor Alexander recently added author to his long list of achievements with his memoir, Go to School, You're a Little Black Boy, which is something his mother often used to say to him during his childhood.
If it was a big sell, it's just a reflection on my life, just to describe my life from the day I was born. And I brought up my time in Africa, my time as a citizen. At the time I went to school, then I got to Osgoode Hall, and then I became a lieutenant governor. So the book is a reflection of my life. Right. It's a good seller. Anything you read about me is always good. Yeah. Because I'm very careful to speak, because if I fail, they'll say, I told you so. I told you wouldn't make it. So here I am, 90 years young. I believe in God, and I pray all the time. I'm afraid I don't go to church as much as I should, because I'm just lazy. But I pray all the time. I look at your program. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to express my views. My job is to stay out of trouble.
In Hamilton, Ontario, Mindy Tweedle, 100 Huntley Street.
That's a wrap.
Perfect, thank you. I hope we have learned a little bit more about Mr. Alexander's life and what he's gone through. So now I would like to actually call upon our first presenter, who is none other than our esteemed Director of the Peel District School Board, Ms. Swaroop. It is my pleasure to introduce Director Swaroop to say a few words.
Thank you, Citra. Good morning, dear students and staff, and welcome, esteemed guests. Throughout history, courageous people have stood up to inequities and racial injustices to help us get to where we are today. And I'm honored to join you all as we celebrate one of those inspirational leaders, the Honorable Lincoln M. Alexander, who continues to spark change on what would have been his 100th birthday. Famed for achieving many firsts in the province, as you heard earlier, including being the first Black Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, he was also a lifelong learner, encouraged by his mother, who instilled in him the importance of education. And he especially loved to learn, as he spoke about in the video. Now, this is really important because learning and reading opens the doors to a bigger world. Reading teaches us about each other, to see realities and experiences that differ from our own. And most importantly, reading and learning teaches us the role we must play in standing up for one another. The Honorable Lincoln Alexander took immense pride in reading and learning every day. He fought for equal rights and equal opportunity for Black Canadians, and his work was crucial to changing attitudes and perceptions of what it means to be Black in Canada. But change doesn't happen overnight. Dear students, especially the students who are here today, do you know how change happens? Social movements make change happen. And a huge part of any movement is centered on learning. I share this because our youth are and always have been the driving force behind social change. From the 1960s anti-war marches to today, where groups around the world are standing up and speaking out for climate change and racial justice. In fact, as a lifelong learner, I'm constantly reading new books to better understand and learn not only what's happening in Canada, but globally, and the steps I can take to effect change. Recently, I read a book titled Disorientation, Being Black in the World by Ian Williams, a former Peel District School Board student, now a Pulitzer Prize-winning author who was also recognized by the city of Brampton and inducted into Brampton Arts Walk of Fame. Ian made me think about what meaningful change is, considering we live in the systemic structures of the past. I was left contemplating on how we examine the past and the present in order to speak to the future. So dear students, to honor Lincoln Alexander's 100th birthday, I ask that you think, reflect, and act on the change you want to see in this world. This is my message to you. Begin by reading about an issue you're passionate about, educate yourself, and learn how to be a catalyst for lasting change, just like your school's namesake, the Honorable Lincoln M. Alexander. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Swaroop. That was very appropriate for our students to bring about social change. Thank you for those words. Next, I would like to call upon our Associate Director, Ms. Strangway, as she graciously agreed to be a part of our celebration today.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Ms. Deodat, for inviting me. And I just want to provide a little context to what I was asked to do. I was asked to provide an anecdote about my own personal connection to Lincoln Alexander, and I did not know him, but I greatly respected him as a person. I really appreciated watching that video, and I'd seen parts of that on the news at around the time of his 90th birthday. But what I would like to say from my own personal anecdote is Lincoln Alexander broke barriers in our colonial society during the 20th century, where the barriers were great for Black citizens of this country. And you could see from the video that everything he did in his life, he took a really positive stance. And my own family lives in Sarnia, so every time I drive east to visit them, I see the Lincoln Alexander Expressway, and I think that's a wonderful tribute to him, because it makes me reflect on the legacy of his life each time I drive east and then I drive west. And I think about all his great accomplishments every time I go by there, and his dedication to making life better for all people. I actually have a family member who's a generation younger than Lincoln Alexander, a Black man, and he knew him personally. And every time we would drive by the sign for the expressway, there would be a Link story. He always called him Link. And as a Black man who also faced a lot of barriers in his life, being one generation younger, he always found inspiration in all of his conversations and meetings with Mr. Alexander to keep going and to be positive and to make a contribution in this world. And I think that's what I take away from Mr. Alexander. Despite the barriers, you can achieve greatness as he did.
Thank you so much, Ms. Strangway, for that personal reflection and thoughtful anecdote. The man has definitely positively touched many of us in different ways. Next, I would like to call upon our distinguished principal, Mr. Hansen, of this grade school, Lincoln M. Alexander Secondary School.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Chitra, for that. I'm Devin Hansen, the principal here at Lincoln Alexander. I'm honored to be part of his 100th birthday celebration for one of the country's most distinguished statesmen. Lincoln Alexander is known as a leader, educator, role model, and trailblazer. For me personally, serving as principal at a school named after this icon inspires and motivates me to be the best and bring honor to his name by ensuring that the staff and students that grace the halls live by his values, which is also our school motto: pride, achievement, and responsibility. As we celebrate Mr. Alexander's birthday, I want to encourage everyone to honor this man and legend by reading his book. Go to school, you little black boy. You'll be better for doing so, because I know I am. Like his mother, my mother, and likely everyone present today, please continue to believe in the power of education. On behalf of the staff and students at Lincoln M. Alexander Secondary School, I welcome you all, and especially Miss Erica Alexander, Lincoln Alexander's first granddaughter. I'm excited and hope that you are excited as we look forward to hearing from you. So please enjoy the rest of the celebration, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hansen. Thank you for that reflection. At this time, I would like to call upon our keynote guest speaker, Miss Erica Alexander. So Erica is Lincoln's eldest granddaughter of 2. She has become the family representative, honoring her grandparents, Lincoln and Yvonne Alexander. She has a background in political science, religious studies, and holistic medicine, and currently pursuing a career in health and life coaching, and has a passion for writing. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that I get to present to you Ms. Erica Alexander.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Williams.
Sorry about that. I think you're having some mic issues. Are you able to unmute? Yes, I think you're unmuted now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, sister, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Hi, everyone. Sorry about that, having a little bit of technical difficulties on my end. My name is Erica Alexander. I am the eldest granddaughter of the Honorable Lincoln Alexander and my grandmother, Yvonne Alexander. And I'm really excited to be here with you all this morning, starting my day off for Lincoln Alexander Day with the Lincoln Alexander High School. It's really a big privilege and an honor to be able to share my time with you and share a little bit about my grandfather. I think that it's a really great honor to celebrate Lincoln Alexander Day across Canada because my grandfather was such an important figure in our nation, and I think that allowing ourselves to really just follow his story and be inspired by his story is something that can lay the seeds for many generations to come. He's been a great inspiration in my life, of course. Growing up, I didn't really, in the beginning when I was a child, my grandfather became the lieutenant governor when I was only 2 years old. So immediately in my life, I was immersed into the lives of my grandparents. So it didn't really hone into me how important my grandfather was until I got a little bit older. And when I was in elementary school, that's when I really started to see that my grandfather was a big deal, when I would see the reactions of other kids and teachers and their parents when my grandparents would come visit our school, and I would see the reactions of how everyone wanted to talk to my grandfather or shake his hands or share stories with him. So that's when I really started to realize that, Lincoln Alexander was a big deal. Growing up with him, my sister and I were extremely close with my grandparents as we all lived in Hamilton. So I spent a lot of time growing up in central Hamilton, hanging out at their home when my grandfather wasn't away in Toronto or Ottawa working. We spent a lot of time outside, gardening, hanging out, eating food, playing in my grandfather's office while he worked. And it was really, we were a very close family and a small family. So we really got to know each other well. And throughout my life, my grandfather became one of my best friends. And so it's always an honor for me to be able to share my stories with him. I'm always excited to hear other people's stories. My grandfather has changed the lives of so many people. And every year during Lincoln Alexander Day and during this week, I am told more and more stories about the great things I did. And a lot of those things are not always known. We tend to know the bigger, grander accomplishments that he experienced in his life, but it's always those smaller things, the personal touches, the personal the sharing that he did with others, to help other people have a great life as well. So I know that there are some photos that I shared for the event. If you'd like to show them and go through and talk about some of the photos.
Anthony, can you do the next slide, please, to show the pictures?
And this also, I'll show you that I do have the Lincoln Alexander memoir here, and you can see I have many pages outlined and highlighted here. And even though, I know the story of my grandfather's life very well, it's an awesome book, and I suggest that everyone try and find a copy to read it. It's a great read. So the photos that you see in front here, the photo on the left is me signing an outline. It was at my grandfather's state funeral back in 2012. I spoke there along with my sister and many other dignitaries, and it was really a great celebration of my grandfather's life. The photo on the right is of myself speaking at the Lincoln Alexander Public School in Hamilton during Lincoln Alexander Day, I believe back in 2019. Here are two of my favorite photos of my grandparents. So my grandmother's name was Yvonne. We called her Toby. That was her nickname. And of course, as my grandfather mentioned, we didn't call him Grandpa or Lincoln. We called him Baba. So the photo on the left, which I call the Lincoln Yvonne kiss, is when my grandfather was elected as the first Black member of Parliament. And on the right is a photo of just a night out on town for the both of them. They love to dress up and go to parties back in the day and have a really great livelihood. And they had a very strong group of friends and community, and that was very important. Here's another very important photo of my grandfather here standing with Nelson Mandela. I believe this was in 1994 when Nelson Mandela came to Canada for a very big event, and my grandfather had the opportunity to meet one of the heroes. And I really love this picture because of the way they're standing towards each other, and they're almost the same height. You can kind of see their stories even within their body language. So it's a really great photo. I love it. Here's another favorite photo of mine. This is a picture of my sister and I with my grandfather at Peelschools Park. This was in 2009 during the celebration and premiere of his documentary, which is called A Lincoln Time, which is created by Toronto creative Nicole Brooks. It's an awesome documentary. I believe you can find it online if you search for it. My grandfather is in the documentary, so it's a really fun thing to watch if you can search for that. And of course, some more photos of my grandparents. So the photo on the left is a series of portraits that my grandparents had done. My grandparents met each other. They were quite young. My grandmother was actually 6 years older than my grandfather, so she was always a great inspiration and leader, a quiet leader for him in his life, and he always really wanted to do well because of her and the life that they created together. The photo on the right is my grandfather and my grandmother and my father Pete, and this is also one of my favorite family photos as well, as a family, taken in Hamilton. And this, of course, is my grandfather as a baby. He was born in Toronto, as he said, in 1922. And this photo is actually taken at the house that he first grew up at on Draper Street, which is now considered a historical site. And you can actually go down it. It's a very lovely street. And the first time I got to visit that home was when the street was actually having a block party, and they were celebrating within Lincoln's honor as well, and we all attended and had a great day there. It was a really special day. And lastly, just some more older photos of my grandparents. Both of these photos are taken in Hamilton during their earlier days, as I say. On the left is a picture of my father with his parents, and he was their only son, their only child. And like I said, our family was small, so we were very close all growing up. And on the right is a picture of my grandparents in front of the train station. And I just really love these old photos because it really exemplifies how close my grandparents were, and they did everything together and really supported each other throughout their life. So I'd really just like to say thank you for having me, Tisha, and hope you all have a wonderful Lincoln Alexander Day.
Thank you so much, Erica. Thank you so much for agreeing to be here for that touching tribute to your grandfather. I know from your presentation, the staff and students at Lincoln, as well as Peel, feel a little bit closer to Mr. Lincoln M. Alexander, and we feel as though we know him a little bit more intimately. Thank you so much for sharing those beautiful photos, personal photos, and being here with us today. Our next presenter, just because of the technology issues we're having, I do have her on my speakerphone, and ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to present Mr. Alexander's widow, Mrs. Marnie Lincoln Alexander, otherwise known as Marnie.
Good morning to you all. Director Strangeway, Principal Hanson, Superintendent Ajalu, Mr. Benjamin, BFA President Mr. Lewis, and last but not least, Vice Principal Misty Odat. I want to thank you for asking me to attend today. It's an honor to be addressing your very distinguished guests, your school, and your student body. Some of you have met my late husband, and some of you have only heard his name and don't really know who he was. So if he was here today, he would introduce himself as Dr. Colonel, the Honorary Lincoln Macaulay Alexander, member of the Privy Council of Canada, Companion to the Order of Canada, Knight of St. John, member of the Order of Ontario, holder of the Canadian Forces Decoration, barrister and solicitor, Queen's Counsel, holder of a Law Society Medal, and recipient of several honorary doctorates. In fact, there were 8. And because he would have loved you all so very much, he would want you to refer to him as simply Link. Lane considers himself lucky because he had 4 people besides myself who loved him very much. His late son, Keith, his daughter-in-law, Joyce, and his 2 beautiful granddaughters, Marissa and, of course, Erica. His mom would tell him when he was a little boy, stay in school, you're a little black kid, because education will be the key to your success. So he decided to go to Central Collegiate Toronto to McMaster for a BA, and then Osgoode Hall Law School. Eventually, he became that successful man that his mother dreamed about. I remember very late one evening, he received a phone call. He was in his late 80s, and it was a senior woman asking him to speak on behalf of her son, who was in jail. When he finished this conversation, I asked him why his phone number was still listed publicly at this late age and stage of his life. His response was, I'm here to serve. And he did, to his last breath. His motto that he would want you all to remember. It's not your duty to be average. It's your duty to set a higher example for others to follow. I did. You can. You will. I want to thank Ms. Deodat for taking the time with others to plan this wonderful tribute to my late husband, and to say to you all that I know absolutely that Lincoln would be very, very, very proud of you all today.
Thank you so much, Marnie, for that beautiful tribute to your late husband. We really appreciate you being on this call with us.
You're very, very welcome.
He truly was an iconic man in our community, and we appreciate your contribution to his legacy.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.
Okay, our next presenter is our Honorable Superintendent of Education, Mr. Ajula.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much, Chitra, for the introduction. I am going to turn my camera on to be able to say hello, but I'm in a school this morning. I'm in a school this morning supporting just supporting some issues here and some wellness for staff and students. So I'm having some connectivity issues. I'm going to turn the camera off so I don't lose my connection. I've lost it a couple of times. So hopefully this works. I do say good morning to everybody. I'm very proud and excited to be with you in community in this space. As has already been mentioned, my name is Harjeet Ajla, and I'm proud to say, very proud to say, that I'm the Superintendent of Education for this school. Thank you so much to the administrative team at Lincoln Alexander Secondary School that have invited me here to say a few words. I really want to acknowledge the family members that are with us in community today, and thank you so much for taking the time as we engage in honoring the history, the legacy, and the namesake of our school. There are so many reasons to celebrate the legacy of Lincoln Alexander. As we've heard through some of the individuals that have already spoken, he was a very accomplished individual, a lawyer. He was the first Black member of Parliament, the first Black cabinet minister, the first Black lieutenant governor of this country. These are such significant and prestigious political positions to hold in any country. So it is important that we remember, acknowledge, and celebrate these incredible accomplishments. I think it's also very important that we take the time to also contextualize the history around his work and also around the time period that he was living in. So we know that today, in 2022, anti-Black racism is still very present in Canada and in our political system, in the media, in institutions. And yet, Lincoln Alexander was born 100 years ago. That means that he grew up in an era of racial segregation, an era in which it was socially acceptable and legal to discriminate. And yet, Lincoln Alexander still heard the call to service and still fought to open doors for others when people said that it was impossible. When I reflect on his incredible legacy, that is what I celebrate. His service to community and his commitment to making a difference in the lives of so many people. Today marks his 100th birthday, and 100 years later, so many people are continuing to fight against racial injustice and continue to be the firsts in their various fields. So as we all continue this celebration, let's all reflect on how we can continue to remove barriers to racial equality and continue the legacy of Lincoln M. Alexander. Thank you so much. I hope the connectivity lasted and you were able to hear my words.
Thank you, Mr. Ajula. I believe we did. Thank you for those words and those reflection about Mr. Lincoln M. Alexander. So our next presenter I would like to introduce is our trustee of school, Miss Benjamin. Sorry, Miss Benjamin, I think you're muted.
Yes.
Perfect.
Good morning, everybody. Honorable guests, principal, vice principals, staff of Lincoln Alexander Secondary School, and my dear students. It is indeed a great pleasure for me to be here this morning and be a part of the 100th birthday celebration of the Honorable Lincoln M. Alexander. A big thank you to Principal Hansen and his team for inviting me. While researching the internet to find out more about this great personality, I found that he had written a memoir titled, "Go to School, You're a Little Black Boy." I read this awesome book and said to myself, what a great Canadian. Every student should read this book. The title, "Go to School, You're a Little Black Boy," is actually a statement often made to him by his mother when he was growing up. This statement, so profound in its simplicity, but repeated from time to time, had far-reaching effects on the young Lincoln Alexander. He listened to his mother, who was his main source of inspiration. He grew up to be, in his own words, one stylish dude who became a trailblazer and a great role model for young people belonging to the Canadian Black community, as well as to any other community. Lincoln Alexander came from humble beginnings. His early years in Canada and his teen years spent in the USA opened his eyes to discrimination faced by people of his background. And he was determined to overcome these obstacles and be successful in life. And what a remarkable life he carved out for himself. Throughout his life, he stood his ground and firmly spoke against racism and discrimination in a dignified manner that earned him the respect of his contemporaries. Throughout his life, he continued to be a strong advocate for inclusion and equity. Any staff, any student, any administrator, community leader, or even a layperson can be inspired by Lincoln Alexander's life. He proved that no obstacle is insurmountable. He believed in himself, did not take no for an answer, and every roadblock in his life was seen as an opportunity to better himself. In his memoir, he spoke about his belief in the transformational power of education and how students can use their education to make a difference in the world. He loved to meet with students, and his consistent message to students was, "Get an education. You are the agents of change." His advice to students of any background was, "Do not forget, Lincoln Alexander, He did it. I can. I will. As a lawyer, Lincoln Alexander believed in listening to people and in giving every person, irrespective of their background, the respect they deserved. This ability to communicate with the public and his interest in politics won him 5 successful elections. His memoir is also a great book for future aspiring politicians. He also stressed the importance of family relationships. He never failed to acknowledge the role of May Rose, his mother, in his life, the unfailing support of Yvonne, his wife of 50 years, and the strong, steadfast, and lifelong friendships that he built in his life. He stressed the importance of honesty, integrity, hard work, and courage to meet the challenges in the face of adversity. He was, as was mentioned earlier by the other speakers, the first person from the Canadian Black community to be appointed to many positions of responsibility purely because of his qualities, his qualifications, his expertise, his personality, and above all, in being the best person available for that role or position at that time. Whatever the position, Lincoln Alexander was the epitome of dignity, honor, and integrity. He also received many awards in his life. But what amused me most was his reaction and his comment to the Lincoln Alexander Freeway in Hamilton that was named after him. He admitted that it was ironical to have a freeway to be named after him, when he had never driven a car in his lifetime. The fact is that Lincoln Alexander was so afraid of cars, he only sat in the back seat, and he was a lifelong backseat driver. I would like to conclude with a request to the principal of Lincoln Alexander Secondary School. Principal Hansen, I personally think that every grade 12 student graduating from Lincoln Alexander Secondary School should be given a copy of Lincoln Alexander's memoir, Go to School, You're a Little Black Boy, as a graduation present. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Ms. Benjamin. I think that's a great idea, and I will support you on that one. Thank you for that inspirational message to our youth at Lincoln M. Alexander. So before we go off to our next presenter, I just also wanted to share with you a little bit of a short video that Mrs. Marnie Beal Alexander has provided for us just to commemorate her husband's birthday. Truly inspirational man. Thank you for that. Okay, our next presenter is our BSA, or Black Student Alliance President, Adam Lewis, would now like to address the audience with a personal tribute to Mr. Lincoln M. Alexander.
All right, thank you, Ms. Duda. So, it is not your duty to be average. It is your duty to set a higher example for others to follow. When a quote like that comes from a man like Lincoln Alexander, it truly means something. Anybody can say a phrase, but becoming greater and overcoming life's hardships takes a true leader. Lincoln Alexander is familiar with raising the bar. In a time where Black men and women struggle to get opportunities and recognition, Lincoln Alexander fought for his victories and learned from his losses. We all face hardships in life. Most of us work past them and move forward, but only the truly committed and exceptional of society can destroy their challenges while making a point that it will take something stronger to stop them. We're facing hard times at this very moment. Instead of waiting for our struggles to go away, we need to be better than them. We need to set an example that seems almost impossible to live up to for everybody to come after, like how we can look back at the example set for us. As the president of BSA, Lincoln's Black Student Alliance, I can say that planning a meaningful, genuine, and memorable Black History Month celebration will be nothing short of a challenge in our current climates. But I believe that we can soar far above our challenges to show that it'll take more to stop us. It takes a call to action to start all amazing stories. So today, I want to call every single one of you to action. Don't settle for average. Don't fight to stop fighting. Fight to grow. It is not your duty to be average. It is your duty to set a higher example for others to follow. That's it. That's your new beginning. Remember the man that our school is named after and go past the example that he set for us.
Thank you so much, Adam. I'm very proud of you, and that was a very powerful tribute to Mr. Lincoln M. Alexander. Thank you for those words. Next, I would like to call upon our Student Activity Council co-president, Jonathan Heath, to deliver a poem in remembrance of Mr. Alexander's life.
Thank you so much, Ms. Diodat. This is a poem created by Elizabeth Alexander, and it was set at Barack Obama's president inauguration. And I believe it reflects a lot of the themes that you guys have presented today, and even with the amazing, speech that was just said by Adam. I feel it just encapsulates it perfectly. Each day we go about our business, walking past each other, catching each other's eyes or not, about to speak or speaking. All about us is noise. All about us is noise and bramble, thorn and din, each one of our ancestors on our tongues. Someone is stitching up a dam, darning a hole in a uniform, patching a tire, repairing the things in need of repair. Someone is trying to make music somewhere, with a pair of wooden spoons on an oil drum, with a cello, a boombox, harmonica, a voice. A woman and a son wait for the bus. A farmer considers the changing sky. A teacher says, take out your pencils, begin. We encounter each other with words spiny or smooth, whispered or declaimed, words to consider or reconsider. We cross dirt roads and highways that mark the will of someone, and then others who said, I need to see what's on the other side. I know there's something better down the road. We need to find a place where we are safe. We walk into that which we cannot yet see. Say it plain that many have died for this day. Sing the names of the dead who brought us here, who laid the train tracks, raised the bridges, picked the cotton and the lettuce, built brick by brick the glittering edifices that they would keep clean and work inside of. Praise song for the struggle, praise song for the day, praise song for every hand-lettered sign. They're figuring it out at kitchen tables. Some live by love thy neighbor as thyself. Others by first do no harm or take no more than you need. But what if the mightiest word was love? Love beyond marital, filial, national. Love that casts a winding pool of light. Love with no need to preempt grievance. In today's sharp sparkle, this winter air, anything can be made, any sentence begun. On the brink, on the brim, on the cusp. Praise song for walking forward into that light. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adam, for that moving tribute, for that moving poem. That was very powerful, and I think you're absolutely right. It encapsulates this entire presentation perfectly, and the man, the legend, and the icon, Mr. Lincoln M. Alexander. So at Lincoln this week, it was a little bit of a different week, just because we didn't know about the online learning or if we're going back to school or not, but we were able to celebrate Mr. Lincoln's life within our building. On Wednesday, when we returned to school, we did actually a Kahoot game. We launched a virtual Kahoot game. We also showed his documentary entitled A Link in Time on yesterday. And of course, today we're doing his presentation, this assembly. We also we were in works of planting a tree to commemorate his 100th birthday at our school in the spring, of course. So those are some of the things that we want to do in order to ensure that our students have a little bit more information about Mr. Lincoln M. Alexander, our namesake. So ladies and gentlemen, we're truly privileged to have such an esteemed panel today. And I want to thank everybody who came out to honor this Canadian legend and a hero. Thank you so much for to all of our presenters. At Lincoln, and I would just wanted to also mention that we are very blessed to have this man as our namesake, and wanted this week to highlight our students as well, for our students to join us. So Jonathan, Amelia, and Adam, thank you so much for being a part of this. Mr. Lincoln did come to our school in 2009, and here are a few pictures of his visit to our school shared by a staff member. As you can see, he was very proud of the school and community as well. I wanted to sincerely thank everybody for joining us today in celebration on this assembly, and this will conclude our assembly for today. Thank you.